Ow! Hello everyone, I'm George, and today I'm joined by...
Hey, this is me. I'm Jervis.
And today we're going to talk about Machamp, Nosepass, and Norsepass. Specifically, my Galarian variants of these designs. We're going to talk about how these guys fit into the metagame, or to be more precise, Jervis is going to talk about them, and I'm just going to nod and pretend I understand what he's talking about. Alright, so go ahead, let's start with Machamp. What do you think about this guy?
I think he's pretty interesting. I really like his design. And stat-wise, he has some very interesting points about him. Specifically, his typing. Fighting Dark is one of the best offensive stab types in the meta. It hits almost everything super effectively. Notably, they cover each other's weaknesses really, very, very well.
Yeah, I remember seeing that knockoff is super relevant in basically every meta, I think, past Generation 6.
Oh yeah, knockoff is one of the most important moves in the current meta right now. Its damage is actually kind of absurd sometimes, and having stab knockoff is going to make basically anything hit like a truck.
With 120 attack points, how much do you think, what thresholds do you think it's going to hit?
I think you're going to see a lot of knockoffs against some generically frail Pokemon, specifically.
Such as?
Taking a look. And notably, it has a few interesting, very good matchups, specifically against a lot of the notable ghost Pokemon in the meta. Let's take a look at... I believe Fluttermane, you'll be able to one-shot that, and pretty much any... Yep, you one-shot Fluttermane, which is pretty good. Very funnily, too, you also one-shot Golden Go, which is kind of hilarious.
Yeah,
since it's...
One of the commenters on the Reddit said this guy is basically Gimme Ghoul's worst enemy, which is really funny, because I didn't really intend on this happening, but, you know, I'll roll with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you outspeed, all else being equal, since you're 85 speed while Golden Go is 84 speed, you outspeed it in pretty much every situation. So you'll essentially be able to outspeed in one shot with knockoff pretty consistently. You also have a pretty good bulk too. 90, 80, 80 is enough to survive and make it rain, so you can safely switch in and then knock out with a very powerful knockoff, which can pressure a switch in singles.
Which tier do you think this guy fits into?
That's a bit of a tricky one. A lot of it depends on his wider moveset and hidden ability. I think he could probably see some pretty good UU usage. Though, again, since he has such a matchup with Golden Go, I could actually see people running him in OU or possibly even Ubers as specifically a Golden Go counter.
Which moves do you think this guy would have?
I can definitely see a knockoff. Probably, I could see someone maybe running Thief as a bit of a meme choice.
Do you think he's not quite,
definitely close combat?
Not quite fast enough to run something like Trick?
Yeah, Trick is kind of a meme choice, though. You could potentially, in lower metas, or lower tier metagames, I suppose, you could run Trick with Flame Orb to burn yourself and then give Flame Orb to an opponent to burn them. I could see that. I could definitely see that being used by an NPC in-game, but yeah, I don't think it would see a ton of use in competitive.
I feel like I've seen that being used in past generations.
Yeah, in slower metagames it's actually pretty good, but these days it's kind of hard to pull something like that off.
Too high lethality.
Pretty much, yeah.
And what about hidden abilities? What kind of abilities do you think this guy would have?
Well, normal Machamp typically goes with no guard, but I don't really see that being too useful on this guy. I could see him getting the, that hidden ability that Weavile has that lets him steal an item.
Magician, that's not, I think it's called.
Yeah, Magician. Or, yeah. I could see that being pretty useful, I suppose, in sort of a meme context.
Oh no, sorry, it's called Pickpocket.
Yeah, Pickpocket, that's it. I could see it being kind of useful. If you really wanted to just put the gas on this guy and super meta relevant, you could slap Intimidate on him because, you know, Viking Raider, it's a good way to sell the idea of him being a very reckless and dangerous guy to see around.
Yeah,
so you could slap Intimidate on him, and
it's not that far of a stretch.
Yeah, I could see Intimidate. I could also, like you said, I could see him having the Reckless ability if you wanted to give him some moves like Flame Crash for coverage. That would be also very good.
Oh yeah, Pillage and Burn, especially Burn.
Yeah, if he did have Reckless, he would hit like a truck with Flame Crash.
So what do you think this guy would struggle against?
There are a lot of fast threats in the meta. Like I said, even though he can knock out Fluttermane, he doesn't outspeed Fluttermane. And any fast fairy type is going to be a massive problem for him. Enamorous, specifically, I believe, does outspeed him.
Alright.
Yes, and yeah, Enamorous is actually the reason Garchomp has been struggling in the meta as well. And yeah, the Therian form, he could outspeed, but the Incarnate form, which is the more popular form, he would definitely struggle against, because a Flying Fairy type that can land a quad effective stab against you is not fun. It is not a fun time.
Yeah, it sounds very painful. Alright, so what's your final... what's the word? Grade? I think so, right?
I think I'll give... I think I'll give him B+. Very solid Pokemon. I could see him fitting in very comfortably in UU with a bit of niche usage as a Golden Go counter. I could also see him being used in VGC, again, for that specific purpose, as a way to force Golden Go switches and land very, very threatening knockoffs.
Alright.
Nice.
Alright. So let's move on to Nosepass.
Okay. I'll say...
Let's start with looking at the elephant in the room. Rock Ice. What do you think about this?
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Probably the worst defensive typing in the game.
Probably?
Well, there's debatably one worse typing, but yeah, Rock Ice, it's not pretty on anything tanky. Though, ironically, in the current meta, that's not too big a deal. Because let's just say, hypothetically, you transplanted this guy into the Teal Mask DLC. He would actually be pretty decently popular as an Eviolite tank, most likely. Because you could just Terra Steel or Terra Water to get rid of all of his weaknesses.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting that. Types still matter, but not quite as much as we used to. At least in this generation.
Yeah, in this generation, types aren't the biggest thing in the world, because once per match you can just get rid of a bad typing. That's actually kind of common on ice types right now.
Yeah, I can
especially
imagine.
Defensive ones.
Yeah, without the Terra mechanic, this guy would be completely dependent on the Steroid mechanic.
Yeah, and I know I'm mostly here for competitive viability, but I love this design. Just, you know, the little ice nose and gnome hat, it's very cute.
Someone pointed out that the snot basically becomes... Its beard is made out of snot when it evolves, which is kind of disgusting. But then it's the same with, I think it's called Capchu, the little bear Pokemon.
Cubchoo does the same thing when it evolves, so it's pretty interesting. I guess that's a case of convergent evolution.
Yeah. So, about his base stats, what are the thresholds? I mean, is there anything it can actually survive without the terastallizing?
With an Eviolite, he'll have a pretty good time with resisted hits, because Rock does have some decent resistances. It resists normal, resists bug, etc. He'll have a pretty good time with any resisted hits, because just looking at Rock Ice defensively, well, it doesn't resist a ton of things. It does take 1/2 damage from a few notable types. Specifically, it resists poison, and since we've gotten a injection of a lot of good poison types in the current DLC, it could do pretty good against them. It actually has a surprisingly decent matchup against some of the Loyal 3, oddly enough. But
which format do you think this guy could function in?
Actually see him being very, very good in Little Cup, which, if you don't know, it's specifically a format in Smogon for using first stage Pokemon.
Yeah,
I can see him being within
something like 13 years ago. It's been a while.
I could see him as functioning as a pretty good Little Cup tank. Just slap an Eviolite on him, switch in, maybe set up Spikes or Stealth Rock or something. I could see him being a pretty good lead if he had Stealth Rock specifically.
Alright, so what's the final verdict?
I'm gonna give this guy a little bit of a C for viability, but an A for charm. I can see people running him with Eviolite. Yeah, I can see people running him with Eviolite just because he's cute.
Alright. And finally, for today, Norsepass.
Now, Norsepass is a bit interesting, mainly because if he was a physical attacker, he would have access to Ice Shard and potentially Excel Rock for priority, which could give him a bit more viability. But since he's a special attacker, his viability is going to be almost entirely dependent on if he has Trick Room or not, because sturdy, good offensive stats on a Trick Room Pokemon is actually pretty good. You could reliably get up a Trick Room against anything that doesn't have multiple attacks.
What tier would you put him in?
That's very dependent on hidden ability and moveset. Like I said, assuming he is a Trick Room abuser, I could actually see him fitting in comfortably into RU, potentially UU, especially if he had things like what was it? If he had some good special ice moves to take advantage of this.
Such as?
You know, depending on the hidden ability, like if he had no guard or something, he would be a fantastic abuser of things like Blizzard or any of the umpteen million inaccurate rock type moves.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
And especially because I see he's at least somewhat based on Odin, so I can understand you taking inspiration from something like Gungnir to just make his hidden ability no guard so his attacks never miss.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting idea. I was gonna say you could have access to a bunch of psychic moves, although I don't know how useful that would be.
I mean, it's pretty decent neutral offensive typing. So I could see him making use of that for coverage.
What? So, which Pokemon specifically do you think it would be good against?
Notably, like I said, assuming that he got Trick Room, because 40 speed in Trick Room is fantastic. You could pull off... you could essentially hard check anything that's fast and a flying type. So, ironically, assuming this guy got up Trick Room, he might be a good check for Enamorous. Which is kind of hilarious to me. Okay, it looks like Past Me was a bit of an idiot. He completely forgot to mention that Norsepass underspeeds Ursaluna and one-shots with Blizzard. Yeah.
Does it always one-shot?
Okay. Yes, 140% of its HP, actually.
Yeah, that's that's pretty consistent.
Anyway.
Yeah, you do bring it up quite often.
Yeah, she's kind of a big factor in the current meta. Specifically, she's the reason most Dragon-type Pokemon struggle at the moment. Oh, like, the idea of this guy popping up alongside Garchomp as an Enamorous counter is kind of hilarious to me.
Yeah, it does seem like a bit of an unlikely duo. I guess Levitate could also be a fitting second hidden ability, although I don't know how useful it would be.
It would get rid of your ground weakness, which is pretty good. So that alone is usually pretty viable. Levitate on a Pokemon weak to ground.
How much is 125 special attack actually worth?
It actually does hit pretty good. That's kind of close to Golden Go, and rock type moves do have do hit pretty hard from time to time, especially because they're super effective and quad super effective on so many things.
What items would you give this guy?
Moveset? That is, again, somewhat moveset dependent, but I could see Heavy Duty Cloak, potentially, since then you wouldn't have to worry about getting faked out. Because Fake Out obviously breaks Sturdy. And it would, assuming you want to set up Trick Room, someone could just fake you out, break Sturdy, and then... and
then it's basically over for him.
Yeah, that would stop him from using his gimmick, so like Heavy Duty Cloak is probably the best item for him in singles. In VGC, if you want to use Terrestrialization like Terra Water, you could easily slap a leftovers on him to take advantage of those massive defenses.
Yeah, that makes sense.
This guy, yeah, with Terra Water, this guy would actually be a massive problem. He'd be very hard to get rid of. Especially if he had something like Recover, or if you really wanted to be mean, Terra Water this guy and give him access to Cosmic Power, and then...
Yeah, that is extremely fitting, actually.
Yeah, because this guy actually has a justification for Cosmic Power, funnily enough.
Yeah.
So, in a...
This guy is basically Solrock from Wish, if you think about it, or maybe Lunatone.
Pretty much, yeah. Oh yeah, giving him access to Wish too would make sense. So, yeah, now that I think of it, Cosmic Power Wish, you could potentially, especially with Terrestrialization, you could make him a very annoying teammate. Just set up Wish to heal himself, and if something bad comes in, set up Wish, switch out, comes in, gets healed up, and then you can bring him in later once his checks are gone.
So, what's your final verdict for this guy?
Assuming my moveset predictions are right, in this specific meta where Terrestrialization lets you just get rid of typing issues, I could actually see him being UU, potentially even a little bit higher, just because Terrestrialization lets you get rid of the typing issues. In most formats, though, I can see him probably sitting in as a Trick Room Abuser and RU. So, yeah, that's probably my best prediction for grades. I could actually see him getting a bit of niche VGC usage as well, specifically as a support Pokemon. Because, yeah, I could see him probably getting paired up with, say, Fake Out, and then using Sturdy to set up a Trick Room. Yeah, that's my best prediction for where he would sit. As for grades, I think I actually like this guy. I'll probably give him A-. Even if his viability is very moveset dependent, I think he's very interesting mechanically.
Yeah, I feel this guy is, even more so than the others, really dependent on his ability and his moveset.
Yeah. But especially if you had something like, say, No Guard, you could actually use his the same Sturdy gimmick while with a Focus Sash, set up Trick Room, and then just have 5 turns of No Guard, very powerful Blizzards, and whatever special Rock type moves you want to throw at him.
Yeah, and then he just gets completely mulched by one Mach Punch.
Yeah, that is an issue.
Alright, any closing thoughts?
I really like the Viking theme. I wish we got some more Galarian forms like this. If we eventually get a Norse region, I would love to see stuff like this show up.
Yeah, I have a feeling if they do it, they'd probably lean into it a lot harder.
Yeah, most likely.
Alright. Thanks for, yeah. Alright, thanks for hopping on the show. This was Jervis. And goodbye.
Thank you for having me.
Congratulations, you've made it to the end. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, etc, etc. And If you have any ideas of your own of what I should draw next, feel free to comment down below. Bye bye.